Hi, everyone. This is Gina E. I had a great conversation with Kim. I encourage you to listen to our conversation as well as checking out my book. You can find me on my website, ginaecon.com. Love you all. Peace.
Welcome to the show. I am Kim Sorrelle, speaker, author. I get to do a lot of fun things in life, but my favorite thing to do is meet new people. And I get to meet some of the most extraordinary people. Today is no exception. I have a woman on our show that you're going to want to know. Gina has lived, I think, 7 lives and has done so much in her life and continues to do so much in her life and is something that I was unaware of, but she's that this existed, but she's an end of life doula. But that's just one part of her very big story. So you're going to love her. Gina, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kim. It's a real joy and an honor to be on the show and to be here with you and all your listeners. So I'm very grateful.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so grateful that you took time to be with us today. And so I want to know about you, Gina. So tell me about 8-year-old Gina.
Oh, wow. 8 years old. Where was I then? I'm from the seventh child of 8 kids. I grew up on Long Island, New York. My parents, Italian and Greek, loving unconditionally. I had a great childhood, Kim, I have to say. I mean, and I thank God for growing up with my family and with my parents and in my situation and everything. But yet, as a child, I formed this identity within me, like the insecurities, I'm not lovable. And I believe, and I know it stems from because when I was born with a lot of physical problems, like that I had many surgeries. Yeah. 6 weeks in as a baby, I was in a body cast. So and then throughout my life, like throughout my childhood, I was always having a surgery done, always having a surgery done. My parents were always there for me, did what they needed to do to be parents and loving. But yet here I am, the seventh child, looking at my other siblings, athletic, beautiful, tall. I'm short. And and so I just formed this insecurity within myself. I was raised in the 80s. So I was trying to please everyone, being part of this group, in high school. And yeah, I don't want to say it was difficult because I hid it well and I got used to it. I
Mm,
got used to, okay, what's going to happen to Gina this year? Or what's going to happen to Gina? Oh, it happened to
wow.
me. Wow.
Yeah. Wow, that's tough. Like I can't imagine here you are this kid when you're watching everybody else playing kickball outside or whatever it is they're doing, running around, being in sports and doing all the things and you're not able to do them. I can imagine that would form some insecurity and some loneliness. Was it a lonely time, would you say?
Yeah, it was lonely, but I had I had a great smile, Kim. Like that was my identity. Everybody loved me. Oh, look at Gina Lola Bridget. Or, oh, she's so cute. She could, yeah, she'll endure anything. Yeah, and so that sort of became my identity. Yes, Gina could endure anything. Like when I went up into high school with six siblings above me that already went to the high school, they're like, "Oh, you're an Economopoulos. You're gonna play basketball. You're gonna do this, do this." No, so what did I do? I tried to be a team manager. I tried to get involved, like be part of, but I never felt like I ever belonged.
Mm.
And like I said, it wasn't my parents or no one really put me down. Nobody did. It was just my own insecurities at the time. And then, of course, at the time, my parents wanted us to be with, go to church. And yes, we did, Catholic, raised Catholic, but, get involved in the youth group. Oh, no, that they're not cool. God is not cool in my life. So, and so, I mean, so I was just trying to find where I really truly belong in life, and I was like a people pleaser, yeah, with friends, with family, with everyone. And it just became a norm. And when
Yeah.
you're in a norm, you're used to it. You're used to it. I mean, I could, at one time I was, I guess maybe in my June in high school, and my brother-in-law happened to shut the door on my finger. And instead of screaming, I said, "Oh, Rich, it's kind of painful here. Can you open the door?" And he's like, "You mean you didn't scream?" No, I'm used to that. I'm like used to the pain. I'm used to physical pain. And then eventually became, more spiritual pain and then emotional pain. But the physical pain I kind of got used to. Give me physical pain and I'll take it. And then eventually emotional pain, I eventually was able to take it, but not, not in the beginning. No, I don't like that because you're right. You want to be loved, you want to be accepted, you want to belong. Those are the three things within me I was searching for, and I was looking for in all the wrong places.
Yeah, I can see that, Gina. Like, it is so hard when you don't feel like you're a part of the group, like you don't quite fit in, like you're there, but nobody is seeing you or nobody's recognizing your gifts or your talents. And so many high school students are like that, so many kids earlier than high school, but throughout life that happens. I think we think of that as being a kid thing, but it's not necessarily a kid thing. I mean, you can be 60 years old and feel like you're lonely, friendless, don't feel like you belong. And so, and it's tough at any age, but
Yeah.
man, in high school, with all the stuff going on and all the, whatever, I feel like kids either have this fantastic high school experience. I did. I was fortunate. I had this great high school experience. I did everything. I knew everybody. It was just so fun. Or they have a horrible one, and there's not a lot of in between. And the ones that
Yeah.
have a horrible one, man, it's tough. And I know people that have had bad high school experiences, and you can still have friends and whatever, but it's you probably don't want to go back there.
Yes, and I mean, I contribute to many factors. I look at my sisters. My sister had great experience. I mean, in high school. Everybody, I don't want to say everybody loved each other, but they accepted who they were, like this. But then I believe it's in the era of the age. I mean, I was raised in Long Island, so it was sort of like, you had to be in this particular clique, it was cliques were formed. And here I am. It's like, I was friends with all of them, and I believe they all loved me in some form or fashion. But yet, there was just not like a connection. I didn't have a connection. Like Gina knew everyone, everyone loved Gina, but yet it was just it became like hard work. Trying to keep up with the Jones or keeping this up. And like I said, with my family, my parents, we didn't really keep up with the Jones. We were taught, we did get everything. Not complaining. We were provided with everything. Matter of fact, my dad provided us with all college education, all eight of us. So,
Wow.
I mean, he worked hard. Our ethnic was working hard, and I wasn't like, "Oh, mom, can I have this? Can I have this?" No, you have what you have. The hand-me-downs from your sisters, okay, no problem. And but yet I felt like in the eight where I grew up, it's just the way I perceive things, my perception. And I mean, and they, some had everything, some had this, they came in with their Trans Ams, they came in with this, and I came in with like my little Chevette. Okay, this is great. And I was happy, but I was like the only one because then also in my family, like the first six kids, they had like a sibling with each other in high school. And then I didn't have a sibling with me in high school. And then, matter of fact, my mother had the eighth child, who was 7 years younger than me, when she was 49 years old.
Oh my word. Wow.
So,
Wow.
like, yeah. So in 1973, when he was born, the doctor's like, beware of this, beware of this, beware of this, first get rid of it. But my parents being faithful, like, no. Um, and uh and what happens? He was born perfect. I mean, he was a healthy child. I mean, he athletic, everything. I mean, of course, we all have our problems, but he was just very tall, blonde.
Yeah.
I mean, a great kid. But he also brought up. He was raised like an only child because everybody was out of the house. So yeah. So my family, like the oldest, there's a 20-year gap between the oldest and the youngest, and I
Wow.
was in the
Wow.
seventh child. But my parents were glue of the family, kept us together, which we did. No real trauma or, just, I mean, every family fights or whatever, but there was always love, holiday seasons and everything. And so and I thank God for that, Kim, because if I came from a real dysfunctional family, like, I mean, there are people I know grew up with alcoholism or addicts or, some sort of this. I don't know where I would be today.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I felt like my parents kind of were my God, carrying me through because I respected them. I honored them. I really did honor my parents. Granted, I did things on the side, but and whatever I did on the side, I always got caught. My siblings never got caught, but Gina always got caught. But and that was like another thing. Oh, look at Gina gets caught again. But here my older siblings, they don't get caught, but that's fine.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
get used to this identity that I formed for myself.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, very interesting. So it's great that you had all that love, and I'm sure you had a whole lot of great food with the
oh yes.
Italian and Greeks. Oh my gosh, great, great food. Probably the two best food groups in the world is Greek and Italian. So, so then after high school, you decide you're going to go to college,
Yes.
and what was your path? Because you went on quite a path from
Yeah.
after high school.
Well, going to college, like I said, my father paid for our education and he wanted us to go away to have the life experience. So I went to a school in Connecticut. My path was to find a man, get married, like my siblings, all my older siblings. They found their spouses at college and they got married and 9 to 5. So that was my path. My goal was not only to find my man, was to be married by the time I was like 18, 19, and have kids by the time I turned 25 because of just because of my parents. That's what I was like, wow, I like to be my mom. My mom was a housewife, raised us kids, helped my dad within his business, and that I was brought up in that kind of way, and I liked it. I was like, yeah, but yet you're right, my path did not go that way. I went away to college. I got a degree in social work. Of course, I didn't find my man. I didn't find anyone, and like you had said earlier, here I am, my 18, 19, you would think you like yourself and 20, but it stuck with me because even in college, I was looking for that attention. I was looking to be accepted. And that's where, I mean, alcohol was really became major because I love to drink. I'm like fun of the party. I'm the center of attention. I can outdrink anyone. That was my goal. Like, who could I outdrink? Yeah, and yet, I did go to my classes, and yet I did receive my 4-year degree in social work because I had picked the easiest degree. I didn't want to work, okay, I'll do papers, and whatever. And so I did. I graduated, and then at the time when I graduated, my parents they semi-retired because they still had my brother when he was still in junior high. So they went to Pennsylvania, where my oldest sibling was at living, and she had a child, and she was married and everything. And so it was like before they would retire to Florida, it was, and so I decided, my mother's being so cute Italian, she's like, as I'm graduating from college, deciding what I want to do, because here they left Long Island, New York, where all my friends were at, and here they go to Pennsylvania in Timbuktu, like no, nothing by the beach. And I'm like, and I'm like, but my mom's like, Gina, we built an extra room for you just in case you want to come home, I mean, and I was like, it was my best option at the time. It was my best option to go home, find a job, like I said, social work degree, and I did. I kind of did it reluctantly at first, I was kind of upset, but yet then I got used to it, and then I really enjoyed it because I became a bartender. And so I was bartending and living with my parents, And then I had developed an extra relationship with my mom. We became friends. Like she would take me out for lunch twice a week or whatever. And it was fun. I was like, oh, I could like this. I could like this, but yet, in the back of my mind, get a degree, you get to work in your degree, get a 9 to 5 job like everyone else. And but then yet, of course, that never happened. Like
Yeah.
once again, something what my goal was, but the goal never came about at the time. So
Yeah. Well, bartending is kind of its own social work in a way, right? I mean, you hear a
yes,
lot of stories, you get to know people who are regulars and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm sure you'd agree, probably, if you're a bartender and have a social work degree, it can only be an advantage. I would think would be true.
eh, best best job ever because you're right. They come, they share your problems. I have a compassionate heart by nature. I love that's a social worker is helping. I could listen, take their money, say goodbye, and I don't have to deal with paperwork or the government and make more money. And you could really fall into that line of work. I never went to bartending school. I didn't do anything like that or got a certificate or, how did someone would ask me, how did you become a bartender? You just talk to the customers. That's it.
Yeah.
Drinks come last, drinks come later. The fastness comes later, whatever. You get a rhythm down. Talk to them. That's all they want is somebody to talk to. Yeah. And so yes, I was a very good bartender back then in the 90s now. So
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
fun. And also, Kim, I was so familiar. It was the situation, the environment I was familiar with, like the college scene, the
Mhm.
drinking scene, yeah, oh, I am loved. I am loved in this scene. Yeah, whether they're drinking, of course they're drinking. Oh, they're gonna love me more. If I'm drinking, they're gonna really love me more.
Yeah.
So it became like that kind of scene, which at that time I'm like, okay, maybe this is what my life is all about. And then I love to travel because my parents did, we did many trips as a child growing up, so I love to travel. So now here I am thinking I could bartend anywhere, Kim. I could go cross country. Like I could just drive in my car, like stop in a little town in Tennessee. Oh, do you need a bartender? Do, like this. Like be adventurous. And
Hmm.
so that was another dream at that time. And also I could remember back then, even after I graduated, I fell into like a little depression because I still didn't like myself. I like, what am I doing with my life? I'm bartending, I'm living with my parents, I don't have a boyfriend, and I could remember those feelings and those thoughts. Um, but of course, in hindsight, I could see that now. But in the middle of it, I didn't know what the problem was within me. I didn't know there really was a problem. All I know is there was something missing in my life, and it wasn't like I just couldn't. I didn't know. I really didn't know. Um, but then yet I came to find out sooner or later.
Yeah, yeah. So here you're living this life, you're bartending, you're using your skills bartending, and you're enjoying the job, and you're drinking while they're drinking, and drinking became an issue for you.
Yes, back then. But then
Yeah.
then the issue wasn't that great after okay, when I was bartending, yes, I was around that. I like to drink. I didn't realize I just like to drink just to run away, to be somebody I'm not. To be the cool person, the attentive, whatever it may be. I didn't think it was a problem, so it wasn't really a problem for me back then because I'm like, oh, I could stop, etc., etc. But during that time of bartending and living with my parents back in the early 90s, I was, I had all these applications. I was applying to be on the Love Boat or, Carnival Cruise Lines. Julie McCoy, yes.
Uh-huh.
I have a personality plus, like, okay, I'm all set to do that. And I was like, this is it. This is it. But then in 1991, my mother, who I love dearly, at this time, she was diagnosed she went in for minor surgery and they come out and they said she had 4 to 6 months to live. She was diagnosed with bone cancer.
Mm.
And I'm like, what's that? I mean, that was like something that really came left field for me. What does that mean? What does terminally ill mean? What is cancer? What does that mean? So my dad and I were home at the time when she was diagnosed. Now, my younger brother, who just turned 17, went right off to first year of college and like an hour away in Pennsylvania. So he was out of the house when mom went through her illness. Am I going to leave my parents? Of course not, because I love them. Like I said, to me, they were my God. Um, so of course I stayed. Didn't even think twice. It was like an easy, put those applications aside. Don't worry, once mom is healed, I'll go. But yet, she did. She died. She died in 5 months after that diagnosis. And I'm like saying, the doctors were right. Like it was sort of, I was bartending, I was taking care of my mom, but as I was taking care of my mom, I was trying to cure her. I was doing everything I could to heal her. Like, oh mom, we got this. We'll do this. We'll do this. We'll do yeah. And she went through treatments. None of it give because, like I said, it started in the bone cancer right off the bat, and it spread fast. And at that, I mean, today they may have new diagnosis, whatever. But back then, so she did. Like I said, she died in January of 1992. Five of us siblings were right by her side, or no, six of us and my dad. And so beautiful death at home. But during that time, I like to share is that what did I do? I turned to God, right? Now here, I stopped going to church because I went to college. Don't need God. Not that I didn't believe. It just wasn't in the forefront. My parents were always devout to the top, both of them. And so of course, what do you do when something like that? Like I turned to God. I was like, so I was praying rosaries during that time. I didn't know what a rosary was, but I was praying and going back to church and yeah, mom, we got this. God's gonna heal you. But yet, um, she passed away, and so when she passed away, that was like my first experience of death. That I went I plunged into a real dark spot. I was 23 years old. I'm like, how can this be? Why me again? Okay, it didn't happen to me physically, but emotionally. Why did I
Mm.
have to be home with my mom? Why did it happen in my life or my time? And so I developed that why question right away. I mean, even though I had the why with the physical, but I learned to adapt to it. But he's like, okay, why me again? Why this? And so after she had passed away, going, having the wake and the funeral, everyone says she's with God in heaven, and I'm like, what the hell? Who the hell?
Yeah, isn't that an interesting thing, right? Like, I I think people don't know what to say, but just
Yeah.
backtracking a little, that is a lot to be. I was with my father in his last 6 weeks of life, from the time he was diagnosed until the end, and I wouldn't trade those moments for anything.
Yeah.
But it was hard. I got to say, it was hard, but yeah, I'm so happy that I got to do that, that I got to be there with my dad. So then you have these mixed emotions, and then you're praying for a healing, and you're like, Lord, you got to heal my mom. I mean, you're only 23. Like, you don't want to be 23 without a mom. You want her to be at your wedding and know your children or whatever your future brings,
Yeah.
right? And be your cheerleader for things and your confidant. And all of a sudden, she's gone. And then people come and they say things like, "Oh, they're in a better place," it, but that's not what you want to hear. Like I'm writing a book on grief because of that, because I think people don't know what to say. People often say the wrong thing, not ill-intended, but the wrong
Mhm.
thing that can hit you like a slap in the face, because it's okay. Yeah, I believe in heaven. I believe in God, but I want her here. I want her here. And right?
Yes, you totally taking the words right out of my mouth, Kim, which is so true. What I have learned, don't say anything. don't tell me, don't say anything. And when somebody like in that at that time, my cousin had lost his father, my uncle, a few years before that. So when he approached me at my mom, he didn't say anything. He just hugged me because there's nothing to say. So
Mhm.
when nobody says anything, aha, they could identify. They
Mhm.
understand. But when those who say, oh, they're with God in heaven and it takes time and everything, my heart kind of goes out to them. I'm glad they don't know because the fact that it is painful, like, grief is such a painful
Mhm.
experience in one's life, and it kind of stays with you. So I've learned now, I mean, back then I did not learn, but now I learned that, grief is a whole new world. It's a whole new path. It's a whole new life. And so when somebody, I just say, welcome, like you don't say any, like, okay, hug, just breathe.
Mhm.
Because, and I can't take your pain away. I can't tell you what to believe and what not to believe. It's a
Mhm.
journey.
Right, right. Yeah, just saying I'm sorry is enough,
Yeah, is
right? I'm
enough.
sorry and a hug, that's really all you need to do. And
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be awkward. Just love the person who's grieving and
yeah.
understand too, they might not even ever remember that you were there. Unless you say
True.
something that hurts them, right? But it's
Yeah,
such a blur. It's just a weird time
yeah,
that eventually the clouds lift a bit. And Gina, one thing I always say is you never get over it. Like you were saying,
yeah,
it does. It changes your life. It changes the dynamics of your life. It changes so much. Your compassion, your level of understanding. It just changes so much for the good and
yeah,
for the bad, right?
yeah.
When people say, "Well, just get over it," well, I don't think you don't ever get over it. But what I like to say is you get on top of it, right?
I
So
like that.
yeah, because for a while it's on top of you, right? It is smothering you. And little by little, you kind of crawl out from underneath it. And yes, you still have your moments. And of course, they'll always be a part of your life, always and forever. But you're able to
Yeah,
breathe again and able to experience life in a
mhm,
different way
yeah,
again. And
yeah.
so, yeah, but it's a tough
It,
time.
it is a tough time. And for me, what I say now, during when my mom had died, Kim, I didn't have any faith, hope, or love. I didn't have God in my life. God was in my life, but God wasn't in my life, if that makes sense. Like I didn't have a
Mm.
relationship. So when I experienced that, like in that darkness, that to me, that's like hell living on earth is when you don't have those four things, no matter what hits you. When I had that experience in hindsight, like I'm looking in hindsight, but back then, no, I mean, this is no, because people would say to me, oh, you be very good with the people who are dying. You be good with hospice. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? I want my mom here, Oh, your mom. No, I want my mom here. Like you said, I'm 23 years old. I need my mom. I still,
Mhm.
granted, I don't have a boyfriend, but I need my mom. I want him to meet my boyfriend and my husband. But I want her to be around. And
Mhm.
seeing, like you said, being with your dad, like in hindsight, watching my mom go through her suffering and her passion. I mean, yes, I was trying to control. I was trying to make like, okay, mom, we got you in your hands. We're going to heal you. But then I've learned, God had control of her, and that was God's story for my mom. She had her own personal passion of Jesus. She had her resurrection. And but I did not know that. I had to go through all my feelings and emotions and these pains. I mean, it wasn't right away, but years later to say, wow, my mom is in heaven. Because that's what happened after when somebody said to me, your mom's with God, there was something inside me like, okay, I'm going to search. Who is God? Where is God? Like right after she died, like, where is he? Who is he? What is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of life? What is the, like all this. So I came back to my Catholic roots. I came back into the church, searching, crying, 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 searching, crying, asking, journaling. And then that's where I was like, aha, I came to find out the taste of heaven, or I came to experience the resurrection that we all Christians receive it on Easter. I was like, oh, wow, it took me this long for my mom's death to receive Jesus in my life and in my heart. And so I received it like, yeah, I just had an experience, a spiritual experience. And then, but from there, I said, okay, I'm going to join the convent. I'm going to give my whole life up to God. And I did.
Yeah.
I was a Catholic nun for 12 years in the South Bronx. That's it. Just, why not? This is my
Well,
life.
yeah, yeah. I don't think that's everybody's path, Gina. Like, I don't
No.
think you go from, all right, well, I believe in God, but don't really know him to now that I know him, I'm going to be a nun.
Yeah,
Right?
no.
Yeah. So you're
Oh
right, right, right. So you became a nun, and 12
my God.
years
Yes.
is quite a long time because it is a commitment. When you become a nun, for people who don't know, it is a long process, and it is you are committing your life, and then you want to stand by your commitment. So coming out of that could not have been too easy.
Oh, no. So yes, you're correct. Being a nun, I felt at the time it was a calling from God, a vocation to give my whole life, mind, heart, and body, soul to Jesus, to the church, and to live a life of poverty, chastity, and obedience. And yes, the formation is very long, but everybody loved me, Kim. I had a great smile, right? What could you do? I love to pray. What could you do? Like, yeah, we want her, we want her. And in hindsight, I'm going back in hindsight because at the time, you're right. My faith was kind of like boom, like it came upon me, and now here I'm gonna give it all up. And and 12 years was long enough, and thank God I just did 12 years. Um, and I did make my final vows, and I did. I married God. I married God. I married the church. I married the community. I married the people that we serve. Like, yes, I'm dedicating my whole life. Another moment there. Yes, this is forever. It was forever. But yet, I had once again, I experienced a lot of pain and suffering during the convent, from the hands of my community. I was mistreated. Can't explain it. I mean, I wrote my book about it. I mean, it's in my book, but at the same time, I just was like, I felt like once again, everything was happening to me. I had this personality plus, you're with 12 other women, jealousy comes in, envy comes in. My spirit was going this way, and their spirit or their formation wanted more this way, like more strict, more confined. And my spirit wasn't confining into that and not realizing it. And the last 2 years of my religious life, they actually, meanwhile, I'm trying to, and I wasn't happy on the inside. I was fearful on the inside. I was afraid because I always got in trouble for some reason. And it was just ridiculous of certain things why I got in trouble or reprimanded or corrected. And of course, we don't like corrections, but some of these corrections are like, oh my, I mean, really? And so your ego gets squashed and everything. But yet, and the last 2 years, they approached me because now I'm trying to change a new spirit in me, trying to be more obedient, whatever, conform, doing what they're asking of me. But then they said they needed a break from me. They took me aside and said, we need a break from you. I was like, what? A break from me? And they thought there was major issues in my life that so
Mm.
I was obedient. It's like any marriage. You do anything you can to support your marriage. If it's on the rocks, right? People go to counseling or go for therapy. I was like, okay, I'll do what is need to do because I'm in final vows. God called me to this whole life forever.
Mhm.
So I had a couple of choices, and one choice is I did. I went to a place in Michigan. It was a therapeutical place for religious life and priests. So I went there for it was a 3 month program. I said, okay, because now, mind you, Kim, I don't mind talking about myself. Like, yeah, give me a couch and I'll cry and I'll tell you my problems, you know? And and I did. And I ended up staying there for 4 months. And the religious community didn't really see anything bad in my life to say that I wasn't fit to live a religious life in this community in New York. So I was like, okay, I'll go back, and they kind of received me, but a lot had happened. Really, it was a mess. It was just a total mess. Even the waiting time to go to Michigan, I was sort of like I was isolated, talking to being alone. They wouldn't let me back in the convent. I was rejected, you name it, betrayed, and then yet, they did take me back after because I worked on myself. I learned I had anger issues, people pleasing. Okay, got homework to do. I practiced changing myself, and then yet it just didn't work out. It still didn't work out to my community. And but what I came to find out in the therapeutical place is that I needed a real spiritual healing. Because mind you, remember I said when I grew up, my physical, like I formed this image and everything. Well, that was so hidden within me that it was stuck in me from just of my identity of the poor me and the why me and look at me and this insecurity, coming stemming from my birth, like all that. And so, oh, how am I gonna get a spiritual healing? I can't go to the five and dime store to pick up something, and so I did. I prayed for it. I'm still a nun. I prayed for it, and come to find out that there was a place out in Nebraska that does more of a silent retreat with God, silence. So I asked my community, and the sister was like, yes, go. I think it was because they didn't want me to be around. Yeah,
Mm,
personally, they didn't love me the way, I mean, that's just my personal experience.
mhm.
So I did. I go to Nebraska for a month. They had a Bible and a notebook, but I ended up staying 7 months in silence. I was really a hurting pup within. And then I got set free just from being in 7 months for myself, like, there's something happened, whether it was a conversion, whatever, I don't know, one would call it. It was a graceful moment. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go back to the community and share what I experienced and help them because, we all have such inner issues that
Oh,
sometimes
it's
we
so
cover
true.
up.
Yeah. Oh my word. The damage that we do to each other, unfortunately, right? And then if
Mhm.
you don't deal with the damage, it festers. And it does. It becomes part of your identity when that really is has nothing to do with your identity. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're told things about yourself. We've all done it. You as a kid, you can grow up in the greatest home, but maybe different things that your siblings say or your teacher says or whoever
Yeah.
says or your sense of belonging and your sense of self and all of that, yeah, it forms who you are. And then if you don't deal with that stuff, you keep that going. You
Yeah.
believe that about yourself. You believe that whatever they said back then, and like I had a kid tell me that I had the ugliest legs he'd ever seen. Well, I believed that for years. I was like, oh my gosh, my legs are ugly, right? So you believe the things that are told to you. So how wonderful for you that you broke free from those things.
Yeah. It was, and it's so true. It's the lies that we believe in and the lies we take on. But yet, I didn't know at the time they were lies because they came from my own voice. And you listen to your own voice. It wasn't like a nasty voice saying, "Oh, you are ugly." I heard my voice. So it's like it's just amazing when you look back and like, oh my God. And granted, God could, God did. God gave me a gift back then, got set free, came back to the community. Yes, I could do this. Yeah. But yet none of the sisters received me. They only wanted to hear about it once. They didn't want me to talk about my experience. I'm like, oh my God, everybody needs this experience, you know?
Yeah.
And And then it came to a point where the peace that I received was going away, was slipping going away. And from my spiritual director at the time said to me, you know what, sister, they're crushing your personality. They're very dysfunctional. And I was like, yeah, but what do I do? And I mean, how can I leave? I'm leaving God. You know what I mean? I'm still in a, because I'm still human. It's not like I was totally healed. But yet, I was like, what do I do? But then yet, the sister approached me and this time she says, you don't belong here anymore. I'm like, oh. Yeah, and at the same time, I look back, it was the best day, the worst day of my life, but like, thank God, because maybe there wasn't inside me to say, hey, let me leave. Because like I keep emphasizing, I was married to God. God called me, and here, how could he reject me? How could he do this to me? And so I left. I left. I do feel I was emotionally abused throughout that whole time, but yet what I have today, I didn't have back then. And of course, as we say, if I had what today I had back then, I wouldn't have put up with any of it. But
Right.
that's not my story. My story, I had to go through that isolation, that real dark time as a sister, as a nun in this community, and gone through all that healing to go real deep and just keep moving forward. And I was moving forward. So when I left the convent, I still, God was still with me, but I was confused. I was hurt. I was broken. And I couldn't, but I was also, I couldn't understand, these religious people hurting me like this.
Mm.
Why do they do this to me? Like I couldn't, and I'm in my 40s now. So it's like, and I come back into the
Yeah.
world.
Right.
Oh,
I would think it would be very hard to wrap your mind around that. Right. Because
yeah.
here you are, you're sacrificing, right?
Yes.
You're giving your entire being, your entire life, and said vows and didn't plan on walking away, knew that this was going to be
Yeah.
your life. But yeah, even there, you didn't have the sense of belonging because you weren't included, because Gina, you have a great personality. And I can see where there can be conflict when somebody doesn't have confidence and doesn't have what you have, the charisma that you have. There can
Yeah.
be jealousies and different things can happen. And quite often, whether it's a particular convent or a particular church or a particular
Mhm.
school or a company, whatever, there's a box around it. And you got to fit
Yeah.
into that box, right? Your
Yeah.
personality's got to plug in. And if you're
Yeah.
a square peg in a round hole and you don't fit in that box, man, that is not a good feeling.
It's not. It totally isn't because at the same time, even as a nun wearing a full habit and living a life, a real austere life, and telling everyone God loves them and God loves me, but my insights were still that insecurity as a nun, was still fearful. I mean, the safest place in the convent was me to be in the chapel because nobody yelled at me or nobody said anything to me. Once I left the chapel, it's like, okay, did I do something wrong or whatever, whatever. Yeah, but yet, before was sent to Michigan, there was a time period about 2 months, 3, 4 months that I couldn't go back to the convent. I was here, there. I couldn't talk to my family. I couldn't do this. And I was like, by the time I really wanted to leave, and everyone around me knew what was going on, but nobody would step in
Mhm.
to say, hey, this is wrong. What you're doing to Sister Regina is wrong. I mean, and I would just sneak here, try to, grasp for some human contact. And so by the time, I mean, there was a point that I wanted to leave, just like forget it. I'm not going to wait to go to Michigan. But then I also knew if I left then, I would have put myself into the hospital because that's how I just had to hold on. I really had mentally, emotionally, I just had to, no, it's gonna come, it's gonna come. And God gave me these little graces of strength here or there, because I still believe in God. Okay, God, I'm carrying your cross. I'm carrying the cross. I don't know why, I'm carrying this cross. And so I do thank God that He did. even though I did not want to, even though people said, why are you putting up with this? Leave. And I'm like, I can't because I didn't have it in me. So,
Yeah, that's tough. That is tough.
yeah,
Yeah. So then you're told to get out.
yeah, I
Here's the
did.
door. Don't let it hit you on the way out, right?
Exactly. And then of course, they wanted to be loving and friendly and all this. And I was like, no, I can't. I can't. I ended up going to live with men and women with disabilities, with Down syndrome, autistic adults. I was their house mom. And I love, and not, I don't want to say I loved it, but it was the best place for me to go as a transition because I didn't know anything. I mean, I was sleeping on the floor, like I was sleeping on bedboards. We had a desk. We didn't have rugs. We didn't have a TV. Didn't have computers. Didn't have a cell phone. Any of that. And so now I'm in the late 2000. I couldn't tell you who was popular or not. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have any of that. It was so living with these adults with disabilities was a great transition time. Like yeah, like it get me moving because I had to help them with their needs. I lived with them. At the same time, they just loved me unconditionally. Didn't matter what I did or didn't do. They would hug me and love me and that's exactly what I needed at the time, coming from an austere life and going into the world. So that it was a transition. So I was there for 2 years and just to it was a Catholic surrounding, so I was familiar with the prayers. We pray mass, etc. And this is okay. I'm going to do this, and then after the 2 years, I was tired, Kim. I was just tired of serving. I was tired of just tired. And at this point, I knew I was not going to go back into religious life. I mean, everyone who knew Sister Regina, because I was a very popular nun back then, would say, "Oh, you're going to go to another community?" And I'm like thinking, why do I want to go to another community and get hurt? I mean, that's all I kept thinking. But yet I had to die to that and realize that I fulfilled one vocation in life and just pursue whatever. And I was still kind of lost, 42, but after leaving the men and women with disabilities, that's when I came to the Jersey Shore, to the beach. And that's where I live today. It's where heaven and earth, healing. Okay, this is what Gina wants because she was raised on Long Island, loved the beach. I'm tired of serving. I'm tired of helping others. I'm tired of searching. And yeah, and I did. And I came back. I rented an apartment, never know how. I like, oh, winter rental. My dad, being alive at the time, supported me, helped me through. Didn't know what to do. Oh, I have to sign it. What does this mean? I had no clue of anything, get to sell anything, all that. And but then I needed a job and I went back to bartending. That's the only thing I knew how to do. So
It's interesting to me, Gina, because those 2 years, that 2 year transition, one thing that I found out about service and you touched on is it is such an incredible healer. It's such a great healer. It's a healer of grief. It's a healer of depression. It's a healer of kind of anything when you get out of yourself and you go serve. And then to receive that unconditional love right back at you,
yeah,
right? Like, man, what a great 2 years. Those are tough jobs, though. I mean, the truth is that's a 24-hour, 7 day a week job. You
yeah.
never kind of leave it. You love the people that are there. You grow so close, and it's just consuming enough to be exhausting. And so I totally get it, man. 2 years and tired, absolutely. And of course, go back to bartending. It's what you knew. It's what you
Yeah,
right?
I'm
Yeah.
familiar with the surroundings. Yes, let me bartend, let me do and at that point I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I just wanted just to get back in the world, so to speak, because even living with the men with disabilities, I wasn't in the world because I was living with them, helping them out and everything. So I got back into the world of bartending and that's and then I met a guy named Danny walked into the bar. And it was like, wow, and so I learned, and I had to learn how to relate to men. because up until then, Kim, like, okay, I'm 2 years out of the convent. And granted, if I would, I mean, I was back in the bar scene at when even when I was living with the guys with disabilities, when I had my free time or whatever. And so if I met a guy, they heard my whole life. They heard my sisterhood, they heard this and that. And then at the end, I give them my number thinking, oh, we'll go on a date. Never hear from them.
Oh.
Never. So a friend of mine says, don't tell them you were a nun. So I learned.
Good advice. Good advice,
Yeah,
right?
I didn't know because I
Yeah.
also have like this innocent, like, yeah, this is what happened. They hurt me. This is what did. This is blah blah blah. Like, this is my give me a couch and I'll tell you everything, and so but so when I met Danny, I said I was a social worker. Like, yeah, I was a social worker. I was a social worker. And then he came to find out I was a nun. It didn't scare him. And then I come to find out that he was an alcoholic. And that was my first encounter really with alcoholism. I mean, I know what drinking is. I know what I looked like when I was drinking, but I didn't realize what an alcoholic is. And so, of course, I met Danny in the bar. He was drinking, and then I found out he was an alcoholic. So I'm like, okay, you got to stop drinking. And so once again, he encouraged me to go to a 12-step program called Al-Anon. So I went. Once again, I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to cure Danny. I'm going to control him. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to make him stop. I'm going to manipulate all the good stuff. And yet, of course, come to find out that's not what Al-Anon's all about, and that does not work. And now, now mind you, I'm broken from the sisters. I mean, granted, it's 2 years. There's still some unhealed emotions in my heart, and I'm still searching, searching for that love and acceptance. And now here, I really felt Danny's love for me. Great. God, why does he have to be an alcoholic? Why can't I, what I mean? Why me again? Why me?
Mm,
I mean, I was carrying that why me for a whole long, and and he did. He tried to stop. He did stop. And when he stopped, he was a great man. Yeah, God, this is it. This is it. He's a great man. Simply
yeah.
said.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, right. Yeah. Alcoholism is tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's a tough thing to kick. And so good for him that he was able to. And for people who don't know, Al-Anon, great organization for family and friends of alcoholics. And so very supportive organization. And you go and you get out of it what you get out of it. And but I know people that have gotten a lot out of Al-Anon. But yeah, I think you kind of
Yeah.
learn that it's their gig. It's not your gig, right? I mean, you're not going to heal
Yeah.
him. You're not going to be able to just tell him to stop and he's going to stop. And
Yeah.
so, but then when he did, which praise the Lord, he did. Good for him. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was 2012 he found sobriety, but at this time he found it in Arizona at a treatment center. And we would be in contact with each other. And he called me, he goes, Gina, he goes, would you mind moving out here one day and we could be together? And I'm like, yeah, wherever supports your sobriety, even if it's in Timbuktu, I'll go.
Yeah.
And so in the summer of 2012, he did. He came back to pick up his truck. He was about 2 months sober, which was great. One day sober is fantastic. He asked me to go for a ride, but at this time now I'm working at a kind of like a real job. I'm a teacher's aide for an adult school with disabilities. So I went back, yeah, not to be in control of the whole, not to be the head person, but to help out, which I enjoyed. And I said, well, Danny, I can't. I'm working. His mom, who was so happy he found sobriety, said, okay, I'll go for a ride with you. And they left and they went for a ride and we prayed because I'm still praying with the church, still praying my rosaries, and I put the Blessed Mother in the car and holy water and we were so excited. Once again, another goal or dream of mine. This is it. This is some good, something good is going to be happening in my life. This is the good that I've been looking for. But little behold, the next morning I get that tragic phone call that Danny and his mom got into a tragic accident in Indiana to avoid a deer in the middle of the night. And the mom, they hit several trees. The mom died on impact. She burned up and Danny burned up. And so he was, thank God it was a truck there because he, in his words, he wanted to die. And he knew his mother had died because for some reason, guy didn't knock him out in that accident. So anyhow, he was transported to Indianapolis and get that tragic news, a 360-degree turn, when somebody dies like that or can't can't go back. And I went out to Indianapolis to be with him because God saved him. I was like, oh my God, Danny, God saved you. And he was so proud. He says, I was sober. My mom was sober, but a deer, it was an accident, tragic accident. So I did. I go out there and get involved with Al-Anon and AA people to support because you need that support. Don't know anyone. I mean, we're in the cornfields, nobody, no family, no friends, except for the rooms of AA and Al-Anon. And they graciously came out and helped us. So I was like, and then Danny and I decided to stay out there because he was burnt from his half of his on
Mhm.
his right side from the head to the toe. And as we know, burns are horrific.
Mhm.
And he had to go for treatment and I had to watch and I took care of him with the wounds and we stayed in a family, a couple's house who was in AA that invited us in because we had nowhere and etc. And so we're like, okay, I'm like, yeah, Danny, God saved you. We got this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do it. Um, but then we ended up getting an apartment out there, staying there. But what does an alcoholic do when they're in so much pain, emotional, spiritual,
Mhm.
physical? He picked up, and meanwhile, I'm not really familiar with the disease. Even though I go to Al-Anon, I'm just not familiar with it. And I'm like, how could you pick up? And I kind of relapsed, and I still wasn't quite myself in a sense. I still wasn't me inside. And so he picked up like, horrific, couldn't believe it. I couldn't understand it, yelling at God, couldn't believe, why is this? Why is this? Why again? And then he moved, I kicked him out, da, da, da. He found an apartment. But then a few months later, I found him dead in his apartment. So he died ultimately from the disease of alcoholism. And so that was 12 years ago now of last week. And that was it. That was it. I mean, I could talk about it now. I could share it, but when I had saw them carrying him in a body bag out of his apartment, he was dead for a few days.
Mm.
I was like, I'm done. I'm just completely done with life, with God, with everyone. With myself. I said, because my whole life I kept trudging along, keep pushing forward, waiting for that light, that joy, whatever. And whenever I thought I had it, you know. So
Man, yeah, that is so tough. Yeah, I can't imagine you. It would definitely put you into a dark hole of a place. And how did you get out of that?
um I don't remember. No, I mean I know it was through God's grace. I just at that point my faith, my heart was shattered. Like I just was so depleted. I hated God. I was so angry with him. I didn't want nothing to do with him. I came back to the Jersey Shore thinking, to be honest, I was thinking that Danny and his mom would be alive, that this was a whole nightmare. Yeah,
Mhm.
like once again, I'm plunged into grief, but this time it was really complicated grief for me. I just was like tired and then I came was like kind of living out of my car, from one house to another until I did find a place here on the Jersey Shore. But I wasn't smiling. I wasn't happy. I was not joyful. I was just existing. I was like a zombie, just existing in life. And then I got to a point, Kim, that this is going to be my life. And I came to kind of accept it, to say, okay, the purpose of my life is to suffer. The
Mm.
purpose, to be in this dark place. Now, by this time, the place was so dark that I'm like, okay, let everyone else be happy. Yeah, I'll do whatever, whatever. I did find a job. I was working at a house once again with people with disabilities, just moving along. And then somehow I went into the one night, about maybe a year after Danny's death, I went into the rooms of AA just to I wanted to kill everyone. I was on this rampage. I was angered. I wouldn't kill myself, but I wanted to die. I didn't want to wake up in the morning. I didn't want to live. So when I went into this open speaker meeting, it turns out that one of the person approached me afterwards, knew Danny, and I was like crying. I mean, all I did was cry, cry, cry. Why me? Thinking, all this and my life. Yeah, let everyone else enjoy life except for Gina. And then this gentleman invited me to come into another meeting, a closed meeting of AA, and I'm like, I'm not an alcoholic, but just come. And I was like, oh, I'll come to see why these alcoholics are sober. And Danny didn't get it. Once again, I couldn't understand, like, why this, why my mom, why this, why the sisters, why this, and all that stuff. And now why Danny? And so I did. I went into the rooms, a closed meeting. I did not identify myself as an alcoholic. I said the desire not to pick up. It's a tradition where I was allowed to stay in the meeting. People came to know me because I was there every day, crying, not saying a word. And then eventually I kind of opened up, opened up, opened up. And then about 10 months later, a friend of mine who I knew in Al-Anon as well as AA, she approached me. She says, and I stopped going to Al-Anon because I didn't feel like I belonged there either. I didn't know where I was belonging. And this lady, a friend of mine in AA, approached me, says, Gina, what's your relationship with alcohol? You come here every day. I'm like, I'm not. So I took that time praying, looking, thinking, aha, all along. I mean, that was part of my identity growing up, which I didn't realize it. I hid it because I had a smile. I have the name. I was a nun. How could I be an alcoholic? So on April 2nd, 2015, my hand raised in a meeting and said, hi, my name is Gina. I am an alcoholic. I was like, oh my God, who said that? Wasn't me. How could it be? Another, why me again? You know what I mean? Like, so in hindsight, I do believe God did for me what I could not do for myself. And the moment that I did say those words came out, all the pain, all the tragedy, all the grief, all the insecurities, the anger, the resentment, the situations of my life just opened up, and I was so raw, and it was more pain. I'm like, I don't want this more pain. And then I had a voice inside me, which my own voice, or I believe it was a voice of God saying, what do you want to do with this pain? Do you want to go drink it away like you've been doing, like drinking, running to it? Or do you want to go to your comfy couch, a pity couch, to be that victim? And I was like, I said, and so I stick and stayed. I stayed and I listened, and eventually, yeah, working through the steps of the program, and I I come to accept, because at first I'm like, I can't be the alcoholic, but then the more I went, I'm like, oh, we got the same pain. We may not have the same story, but we all came in with such pain of insecurity, of this fear, and we all have that. And what do we do with it? We would, use a substance, something to numb it. We wanted to numb. I wanted to run. I wanted to whatever. And so yeah, so that's how I am today. Like I said, God willing, I'll be celebrating 10 years in April. And
Oh, congratulations. That's
thank
huge.
you.
Yeah.
and and that's where my spiritual journey, my healing process truly began, when I came into the rooms of AA. And guess what, Kim? I feel like I belong.
Oh,
And I've learned so much, and I'm just and I reunited with God again, because when I came into the rooms, I hated God, and I even told people that. And then people would come up to me when they didn't know that I was a former nun, would come up to me and say, "Oh, like God loves you. You can't hate God." I'm like, I can hate him. I divorced him. He's on the couch. You know what I mean? Like I know who he is. He knows me. He could take anything from me. We've been through it. He knows what I've been through.
Mhm.
And but today, of course, it's a new life and a new release with God, and it's been such a joy and a pleasure today to stand firm of who I am, and I found who I am. I'm Gina. I'm a child of God. I'm a faithful, sober woman today. I am so much more than I never realized that I was. So yeah, and now my insides, like I always kept telling you, my insides weren't feel my insides are filled with light. I'm not in that dark place anymore. I do have faith, I have hope, I have love, and I have God. And so I'm in this lifetime right now to share my experiences to be where who I am today.
Wow. 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 Yeah, man, some people might say you're a slow learner or something, right? I mean, you went through so much. You went through so much. And there's a lot of people, Gina, who have been through a fraction of what you've been through and stay in that dark place, stay in the I hate God, right?
Yeah.
And just get more bitter and the anger builds and you become this crotchety old person instead of, I see the joy in you, and yes, you've got this incredible smile, and I see happiness surrounding you, and instead of being in this painful place that you went through. But what a story, Gina. Man,
Thank you.
yeah, you've been through it all, and now here you are on the other side of all of it, and you're happy and life is great, and you take each day as it comes, and you love Jesus, and you want people to know, you want people to understand, right? That's why you
Yes.
wrote your book. Can you talk a little bit about your book?
Yes, my book is Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk. It's available on Amazon. And it's everything I shared here, but in more detail,
Mhm.
more experience of my pain, but also the more experience of my joy that I have today. And it's a message of hope and strength. That's what I like to spread, to
Yeah.
share with people that you're not alone. And there's miracles in the air, and if it could happen to me, it could happen to everyone.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It is such a great book. I encourage everybody to buy it. It is so good. Of course, we'll have it in the show notes so that people know where to go to find you, your website, and all of that kind of stuff. Gina, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being so authentic and vulnerable and willing to share, because I know your story is helping people. I know people that are hurting. If you know somebody who's hurting, buy the book, get them the book, because Gina describes and understands hurting, and they'll find themselves in that book, and then they can find themselves at the end of the book in a whole different place. So I encourage you to
Amen.
buy it. Gina, thank you so much for being with me. Thank you for
And
sharing.
thank you, Kim.
Yeah, you bet. And so thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. And just go out and love somebody today.
Amen.